This is the burial site of Mark Twain, Samuel Langhorne Clemens, and his wife's family. This is Woodlawn Cemetery in Elmira, New York. This is Samuel Langhorne Clemens himself, Mark Twain. Born November 30th, 1835, died April 21st, 1910. There's his wife Olivia, their daughter Olivia Susan Clemens, and this is Jean Langdon Clemens. Clara Clemens, which is his other daughter. I believe that's her husband. And that is his granddaughter, Nina. She was born shortly after he died. Nina is the granddaughter, last living relative at the time of the Clemens. She christened the Mark Twain Zephyr from the Burlington route. Another interesting person of the family through Langdon is Jervis Langdon Jr., who was president of at least 3 railroads: the Burlington, Quincy, which would be Burlington and route. I can't remember the third name for that town, and I believe the Penn Central. He died in 2004. Trying to find, where is he? This is Jervis Langdon. This is Mark Twain's father-in-law. I'm going to do a little thing about him in a minute, but we're going to go back over to Mark Twain. Now, copper, I call it a facial portrait, has been stolen 2 times, unfortunately. Recently was about a year or 2 ago. And then, I don't even want to say his name. He is related through the son-in-law. But today is Thanksgiving 2021. Mark Twain's birthday obviously is November 30th, so I was thinking of doing a video with facts and stuff connecting Elmira and Lycoming County. Interesting facts about Mark Twain. His given name was Samuel Langhorne Clemens, but he chose Mark Twain as his pen name. Twain went to be one of the greatest American authors and humorists of the late 19th and early 20th century. Many people are familiar with his work and loved his stories, but few knew of the details of his personal life. One of the most popular works is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. His quotes are also famous and have been retold over the centuries. Twain wrote more than a dozen novels and several short stories as well as essays. Other than writing, Twain loved his cats, was innovative, and among other things. Mark Twain is popularly considered to be the father of American literature. Here are some facts about Mark Twain. He was born in Florida, Missouri. I thought it was Hannibal, Missouri. Samuel Clemens was born November 30th, 1835 in the tiny town of Florida, Missouri. He was a preterm baby and was sickly until his 7th birthday. Twain had several siblings, 7 actually. He was the second to last child. Sadly, only 3 of them survived to adulthood. His father was a self-educated lawyer who also owned a general store. When Twain was about 5 years old, they moved to Hannibal, Missouri for better opportunities. A few years later, his father died of pneumonia at age 49. Just like a cat, Mark Twain had 9 lives. One obvious thing is that Twain loved cats. One time, he hired 2 cats to keep him company as he worked on his writing. His father moved the family to Hannibal, Missouri, a town by the Mississippi. Twain loved to play in the water but did not know how to swim. He was saved by drowning in the Mississippi River 9 times. Interestingly, his family had 19 cats at one time during Twain's childhood. Can't imagine having that many. Mark Twain dropped out of school. The death of his father meant that his education was cut short. He took up a job as a printer's apprentice at the Hannibal Journal. This did not cut his dreams of getting an education. He spent most of his free time at the library in the evening, self-educating himself. In 1851, Twain moved to a typesetting job at a local newspaper owned by his older brother Orrin. While working here, he wrote a couple of satirical items for the publication. Twain lived in several cities such as New York, Philadelphia, and Keokuk, if I said that right, as a working printer. Other than being a printer, he wanted to be a steamboat pilot. He was trained by Horace Bixby on the Mississippi River. Twain loved to self-educate. Since Mark Twain got very little formal education, he took up self-educating. He spent his free time at the public library borrowing through books. This allowed him to see things from a different perspective. He valued education and saw it as a vital part of the growth of a human being. Twain was critical in the education system in the United States during his time. He believed learning and education were two different things. He got the name Mark Twain from a steamboat. You might be wondering how Mark Twain came about. Well, before going by his pen name, Samuel Clemens worked as a steamboat pilot. As a pilot, the term used instead of to, when a leadsman would call by the Mark Twain, they would mean the river depth was safe for the steamboat. Twain had always dreamt of becoming a steamboat pilot since he was a young boy. It was one of the most prestigious jobs at the time. He got his license after 2 years of training. As his writing career took off, he opted to use an alias. After trying out several names such as Thomas Jefferson Snodgrass and Sergeant Fathom, he settled on Mark Twain. Mark Twain worked as a miner too. Mark Twain was not afraid to try out different jobs as long as it got him the money he needed. He took up a job in Virginia City, Nevada as a miner. Together with his brother, they did not want to fight in the Civil War. They had briefly enlisted in a Confederate local unit for a few weeks. Unfortunately, this job turned out to be hard and dismal. The war greatly affected the mining trade. Luckily, he did not have to work here for long. Twain got a writing job at Virginia City's newspaper. He wrote about crime, politics, mining, and culture. He first used his pen name while working as a journalist. While working at the Territorial Enterprise in Virginia City newspaper, he used Mark Twain as his pen name for the first time. His first literacy work that was greatly celebrated as the celebrated jumping frog of Calaveras County. This article appeared in the New York Saturday Press in 1865. The article, which was a success, paved the way for a new opportunity at the Sacramento Union. Mark Twain loved to travel. His new job at the Sacramento Union afforded him opportunities to travel the world. He traveled to the Mediterranean, Europe, and the Middle East. During one of his trips, he met his wife through her brother. He showed Twain a photo of Olivia, and Twain said it was love at first sight. The two got married a few years later. While in Switzerland, he visited the Lion Monument and was quoted saying that it is the most mournful and most moving piece of stone in the world, end quote. Twain had lived in Dublin, New Hampshire, and San Francisco. It took nearly 7 years to write The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Twain started writing the sequel to The Adventures of Tom Sawyer in 1876, but he wasn't pleased with his progress. He picked it up again and finished writing it in 1883. His famous book, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, was considered to be controversial. It was banned from its alleged crude language and lack of moral tone. Book critics also condemned the book, terming it as being racist, and it was removed from some schools' reading list. Now, little known fact that The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn was wrote here on his farm at East Hill Quarry Farm in the the inn. Mark Twain's bad luck, bad investments, and bankruptcy. After becoming a successful writer, Twain put his money into several bad investments. None of his investments were profitable and was soon bankrupt. He invested in one of his inventions, a self-pasting scrapbook, which sold well. His investment in an automatic typesetting machine was a flop. It cost him more than $200,000. He recovered financially after a successful lecture tour around the world. He paid all his creditors in full. Mark Twain invented a board game. While Twain was putting off writing of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, he was busy working on a game he dubbed Memory Builder. It was originally supposed to be an outdoor game to help his children learn about England's monarchs, but he ended up turning it into a board game to improve its chances of selling. However, after 2 years of work, it was still too convoluted to be a marketable and required a vast knowledge of historical facts and dates. That didn't stop him from patenting the game, though. Mark Twain accurately predicted when he would die. When he was born on November 30th, 1835, merely weeks after Halley's Comet was at a perihelion, or closest to the sun, it appears roughly every 75 years, and Twain predicted that he would die the next time it graced the sky. As he put it in 1909, "I came with Halley's Comet in 1835. It's coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it. It will be the greatest disappointment of my life if I don't go out with Halley's Comet. The Almighty has said, no doubt." Now here are these two unaccountable freaks that came in together. They must go out together. Oh, I am looking forward to that. He ended up passing away at his Connecticut home on April 21st, 1910, one day after Halley's Comet perihelion.